What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Debate Room. And today I want to be talking about something specific that has been, I think, the news of the day, right? Let's go into it. Just let's go into it, right? Could he? This is the question that I would like to ask every single one of you if you're watching this. It's gonna be a short video, but anyway. Could he? What precisely am I talking about? About the words of Helmut Marko. Max would be in a class of his own in any car. Why is he saying this? Well, apparently there was some interview about Max Verstappen, and Helmut Marko was advancing that he's like in a class of his own. He's like the best driver of the grid. Of course, they will say this, right? Every team will say this about their best driver. But here comes the interesting part, if you read this over here. When conditions are like that, and I think they are talking about the Belgian Grand Prix, he puts an AlphaTauri or a Haas, which is a qualifying car, on pole position. He says this about the Haas because the Haas is a car that is very good at putting temperature into the tires, but which is very good for the qualifying conditions, right, where you need instant performance. But for the race, it's a different story. You need the tires to last, and the Haas is a horrible car for that, when the temperatures especially are very high. But anyway, so the question in question is, could Max Verstappen take an AlphaTauri and put it in pole position in a Grand Prix like, for example, Belgium, in a condition where the weather is starting like let's say like in the Q1 you are still in wet, but it's drying out, and by Q3 you are kind of in condition to put the dry tires, right? The soft tires would be, I think, the obvious choice. Could he? Well, with the Red Bull, of course, and especially with this one over here, there is no doubt that Max Verstappen would be able to put the Red Bull in pole position as he did in the Belgian Grand Prix, right? But let's see other conditions where perhaps let's say the underdog was able to do a pole position in strange conditions. The first one that comes to my mind is obviously Mr. Sebastian Vettel with the Toro Rosso, which is the car that Helmut Marko was talking about. In this case, it's the AlphaTauri, but anyway. The conditions of this specific race, as you can see on the picture, it was a drizzling rain. It was rain like hell. This is the year 2008, where the Ferrari and the McLaren were the dominant force. And I talk about the dominant force, such as right now, for example, you might have the Red Bull, right? The McLaren was the car to beat. And in a horrible rainy condition, Sebastian Vettel was capable of putting the Toro Rosso in a pole position. A Toro Rosso, which by the way was not as fast as the McLarens or the Ferraris, right? Hamilton had some problems with the brakes. There was some water in the brake, and he was not able to stop the car as he would have wanted to. So he was out in Q2, if I'm not mistaken. And Sebastian Vettel not only made the pole position, but he was able to win the Grand Prix in the following day. By the way, just a quick thing. As you can see over here, they were able to race with wet tires, unlike now, right? Anyway, just a thing. Another one, and I think this would be the best example possible to try to, and the next one as well, to try to see how this would be possible, right? Nico Hülkenberg, which this is the year 2010, it's the Brazilian Grand Prix. And as Helmut Marko was saying, in those conditions, these conditions was that the qualifying started in rainy conditions or wet conditions, right? The tarmac was not dry. There was no chance to put the intermediate tire. By the end of Q3, Nico Hülkenberg, which was a rookie, and the Williams, which was not even close to being a fast car, was able to go for a last chance on the qualifying and do the pole position with the last run on the dry tires. Something other drivers were not able to do, right? He took the risk, he took the gamble, and he made the pole position. With a Williams. Again, the Williams was not a car to win any Grand Prix on those years, right? Well, Maldonado did win a Grand Prix in 2012, if I'm not mistaken, with the Williams, but that was like one race, and for the rest of the season it was trash. So nobody can explain what the hell happened in that Barcelona Grand Prix in 2012. But anyway, this is another example of what Helmut Marko is talking about. And the last one, obviously, it's last year, right? Kevin Magnussen, again, as you can see, the conditions were kind of changing, sketchy, and he with the Haas, which Haas, as you saw, if you saw the last year's season, you will see that the Haas was not forced to win races, as were the Red Bull and the Ferraris. You can see more or less it was like in the year 2008, right? You have the McLaren Ferrari, now it was the Red Bull and the Ferrari, and then there were the rest. Like the rest were like 1 second away. Even though the Mercedes was able to win this Grand Prix with George Russell, still, it was not close in performance. And Kevin Magnussen, in these changing conditions, was able to put the Haas in a pole position thanks to doing the lap in the correct moment, right? Which is what, again, Helmut Marko is talking about. So, could he? In a racetrack like Belgium. Well, Belgium is a long racetrack, so maybe it's not the best example, but a Brazil Grand Prix, right? Could he take this car, the AlphaTauri, which is more or less 1 second away from the Red Bull, maybe more than 1 second away from the Red Bull, just in qualifying, imagine in race pace, but anyway. Let's see. And I talk about the Belgian Grand Prix because for me the Belgian Grand Prix is the closest example with these season cars that you can have of the differences between a Red Bull and the AlphaTauri. So you can see, for example, for the sprint shootout, the pole position was made by Max Verstappen with 1:49.056. Again, as you can see, the conditions at the beginning of the qualifying were for intermediates, and then they started to go towards the track conditions. Similar like the qualifying for the other race, right? For the one on Sunday. You can see the lap times are more or less the same thing as it starts to get drier. So let's see, for example, for the sprint shootout first, right? For the race on Saturday. Where is Max Verstappen? Where is Sergio Perez, P8, with the same Red Bull? Right, 1:49.9, 1:49.0. And where is the closest AlphaTauri? 1:57.6. He was knocked out in the SQ2, right? So let's check the times in SQ2. Daniel Ricciardo, which was the fastest AlphaTauri. Look, 1:55.2 for Max Verstappen on that one, and 1:57.6 for Daniel Ricciardo in the AlphaTauri. That is more than 2 seconds of difference. Belgium is a long Grand Prix. Usually the differences get a little bit stretched in this Grand Prix, but anyway, there is 2 seconds of difference. And Daniel Ricciardo is not a bad driver, so there is 2 seconds of difference. And if you go to the other one, the one for Sunday race, let's take the Q2 as well. Yuki Tsunoda was in 11th place, similar like Daniel Ricciardo in the other one. And you might actually see, again, 1:53.1 and 1:52.7. Don't let this fool you a little bit, because actually Oscar Piastri was the quickest driver here at 1:51.5, right? If we take this consideration that Max Verstappen would beat this time easily, you can see that Tsunoda is more than 2 seconds away again. So, and even if it's not comparing with Max Verstappen's time, right? If you take the AlphaTauri and you compare it with Piastri, for example, or even the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc, right? If you take this 1:53.1 and Charles Leclerc, which would be the man to beat, would be 1:52.0. It's more than 1 second. And more than 1 second that Max Verstappen would have to put from his own talent to try to close the gap and do the pole position in those conditions. Could he? I mean, I don't think he would have been able to do the pole position in the Belgian Grand Prix, for example. Because at the end of Q3, everybody had the soft tires. At the end of Q3, everybody had the soft tires, right? In a condition where, for example, the ones that I spoke about, Nico Hülkenberg, where he was able to put the soft tire at a specific moment where the track was good for the soft tire, where nobody else did, then of course it doesn't matter what car you have. The soft tire, in a soft tire condition, even if it's on the limit, it's much quicker than the intermediate tire. That will give you maybe like 3-4 seconds advantage. So for sure you will make the pole position with any car. Any driver would do it. So for Max Verstappen to make the pole position with an Alpha Tauri or a Haas, I say Alpha Tauri because I would actually like to challenge Red Bull, right? When Max Verstappen wins the championship, I know Red Bull is not going to watch this, it doesn't matter. Max Verstappen is expected to win the championship around the Singapore Grand Prix or the Japanese Grand Prix. There will be several races left to race on. You will have Qatar, you will have Austin, Mexico, Brazil, Las Vegas, and Abu Dhabi. That would be 6 races, right? 6 races. Of course, they will not do this, no chance. But again, I would like to challenge to see if Helmut Marko is right or not. Change the seats between Yuki Tsunoda and Max Verstappen. Put Tsunoda in the Red Bull to see what he's capable of. And put Max Verstappen in the Alpha Tauri. And let's see what is the qualifying results of Max Verstappen in the Alpha Tauri. And I can guarantee that he will be more or less where Yuki Tsunoda is. Why? Because the Alpha Tauri... First of all, the Alpha Tauri has a big problem with the brakes. And the second, you have more than 1 second difference with the Red Bull, which is the car to beat. And even if it's not the Red Bull, you still have the Mercedes, the McLaren, and all the other cars, which are quicker than you. Maybe not 1 second quicker, but they will be like 0.8, something like this per lap. And no driver is capable of giving such a big difference in dry conditions. If it's a rainy condition, mixed conditions, like Jenson Button was a master of that, right? Would be another difference. That would be actually taking the right decision in the right moment to be able to gain a lot. Like Nico Hülkenberg did, like Kevin Magnussen did, right? Of course, there might be much more examples about these kind of situations. I'm just giving you the most recent ones that I remember, for example. So the challenge is there, Mr. Helmut Marko and Christian Horner. If you ever get to watch this, which I don't think so, do the exchange, put Max Verstappen in the Alpha Tauri once the title is decided, and let's see what's going to happen with the qualifying results. I can guarantee that he will not be in the top 10 any single race. So, anyway, what do you think? Do you think that he would be able to? Like I said, in the mixed conditions, where you take the right decision in the right moment, for sure. Like Nico Hülkenberg did. But in normal conditions, no chance. Do you think the same? Do you think that Max Verstappen could actually overcome that 1 second difference with a Red Bull or any other car who makes the pole position? Do you think so? If you have any comments on that, please put it in the comments so everybody can debate about this. And as usual, take it easy and see you in the next episode.